What is up, Philly sports fans? It's not Wednesday. No, it's a different voice than you're used to. It is Saturday morning. Breakfast with the boys. That's right, Pattison at Fanatics, and I'm Big Al because TK decided to take the day off, I guess. We got a lot of Flyers talk about. That's all we're going to talk today. Flyers, fly. I'm just kidding. It is 33 hours into the Super Bowl, and the Eagles are taking on the Chiefs, and we will probably discuss other sports at one point, but get ready for a little Super Bowl heavy content here on Edge of Philly Sports with Pattison at Fanatics. I want to welcome in Joey Marks.
Welcome to Super Bowl Saturday Spectacular.
Welcome in James Scorza.
Happy Saturday and happy Super Bowl Saturday.
And Frank Finnegan. What's going on, Frank?
This is getting old. World Series, Super Bowl.
Frank's starting to yawn at me. He's like,
yeah, Frank, just because you called all of these doesn't mean that you have to get bored already.
Yeah, Nostradamus over here is really.
I got another one.
Yeah, he's got another one.
Actually, I have two.
Oh, geez, here we go. But let's talk about the one that's upcoming in 33 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But, guys, just remind you this episode's brought to you by David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm, Sherry's Tickets at sherrystickets.com, phillysportstrips.com, and Dolan's Bar. We'll get to those guys momentarily. But this has been the longest 2 weeks of my freaking life right now. I don't know about you guys. I have tried every which way to speed up time. And I to busy myself to any other time I'm working on our network stuff.
Right.
I'll do something. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna plan on doing this, and this today. And I'll do one of those thises,
right.
And I'll be like, all right, it's 3 a.m. I guess I have to go to bed. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. And guess what? I did 4 of those thises, and it's been 30 minutes.
Right.
Like that is the hell I've been living this Super Bowl purgatory, if you want to call it that.
It was easy for me because I did the smartest thing ever. I took vacation last week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was completely distracted.
Where'd you go again?
We went down to, I kind of split my vacation. The whole family went to Orlando. You know, my daughter wanted to take her granddaughter to the Disney. The in-law side of her family went. Our side of the family went. But I'm not a walk around Disney kind of guy.
No.
So I said, okay, I'll do Disney one day, I'll do Universal one day. The rest of the time, golf. So
shocker.
I played golf in Orlando on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then me and my son got in the car, drove up to my cousin at Pawleys Island in South Carolina, played golf the rest of the week. They all came to Saturday.
Okay, so be honest, how well did you do?
What, golf?
Yeah.
It was my first time playing this season. My first round was really good. I didn't play bad. I mean, I was about 7-8 strokes over what my normal average is.
Okay.
So I was breaking 100.
Okay.
We're floating right around 100.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk about this. Let's break pieces down, and going over with Joe with the breakdown of today's show. One of the things he wants to start with is a little bit of the past, kind of a lead up here to Super Bowl. We've heard all. We'll talk about the matchup. We'll talk about Mahomes versus Hurts. We'll talk about the offense and the defense. We'll get into that, but let's start a little bit with the lead up since we have a little time here. And when the first question Joe was talking about with this is, when did you know there was something great about this team? And James, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the first thing I saw with this team was probably the draft. I think when Howie made players come. I mean, obviously, the big two Georgia Bulldogs players that I'm a big fan of is Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean were. Especially was draft night and actually again A.J. Brown was another big pickup that the Eagles had. But I think probably since training camp, I knew this team was really special.
Joey?
I go deeper into it because some of it, especially during the season, it was like Tennessee. The Tennessee game really was the litmus test. And I know that they don't have a world beater for a quarterback, but they have a world beater for a running back that we heard all about that week leading up. And everyone at that time, because Tennessee was leading that division, that's all we heard is this is the first test for the Eagles, and they blew them off the field. And it was the first indication to me that this team had a cutthroat kind of mentality. And that was then evident down the road with the playoffs. But that Tennessee game was the first one where it was like, okay, we're going to take your heart, we're going to throw it on the ground, and we're going to take a spear and throw it through it.
Probably not the best with Joe when he's mad.
Yeah.
He'll spit on my grave when he's done too.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
he will.
I mean that's really where I kind of saw this team like show up, show out, and go balls to the wall. I know people will go to other games in the season and say, well, no, they did it this way. I really look at Tennessee.
For me, it was two stage. It was when they picked up AJ Brown. I thought, wow, they gave this kid targets.
Mhm.
He didn't have that many targets. He had two really good targets last year. Now he's got targets that open the field up. And then when they got to that midway point in the season, I think they were like 6-0. And everybody said, well, the weakness with the Eagles is the run defense. And then Howie plugged the holes. I went, okay, they're all in. He just pushed his chips in. And they went through that that gauntlet of, I think they had like 5 great running backs in a row that they had to defend. They shut every one of them down. And I went, this team's definitely going. And it's, if it hadn't been for the injury to Hurts, he'd have probably finished the season
Yeah.
with just the one loss.
I'm gonna lean mine a little bit more towards what Joey Marks was saying. Like that was the time I was like kind of more secure in feeling like this team is going to be poised. Um, I'll say this: watching the offseason, leading into the preseason, right before the season actually started, I knew Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie were actually going to give Jalen Hurts a chance to prove himself.
Right.
Because I was a little afraid of that. I'll be honest with you. I talked about this with my boy Joe Sheeran on our show on Wednesday. Like, how many quarterbacks that came out like who were top touted quarterbacks out of the draft, who kind of never panned out, like the couch type situation,
Yeah.
because they were just on the wrong team with the wrong coordinators and just never had a chance. Yeah, just weren't able to hold up.
Right.
So I was like, this team gave him a fighting chance to prove himself. And to me, that goes back a little bit, and kind of, I think Howie kind of admitted it during this whole Super Bowl week in one of his interviews that they saw something in Carson Wentz that they were keeping very private. That it was more than just, okay, maybe he was a little bit more of a prima donna than he was the real D bag. And they had a fear of him from saying a health situation and a leadership situation.
Well, that's played out.
Yeah, and that they were definitely right about that. And I was a big Wentz fan from a talent standpoint. I mean, when I still don't think I'm wrong on that, but there's a difference between being talented and being able to win and having the mentality to lead men to war, because that's what this is. It's like gladiators, but not with a lion.
Well, I've said this before, and I said this because on our 5th anniversary, I said there's a difference between physical ability and mental ability. And if you don't,
Huge difference.
right, if you don't go into a game thinking I'm going to produce and do everything in my power, uh, everything in my ability, and stay mentally strong for send the right messages to the teammates,
Mhm.
and that is something that I felt like even that first time that Carson got benched. I forget what game it was.
That was the Saints game, wasn't it?
No, it's Green Bay.
Green
Green
Bay.
Bay was
Green
pulled
Bay.
out. Saints
Yeah.
he sat. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So when he got pulled and Hurts came in, I literally watched that game and said, "Man, it just like seemed like the mentality, the attitude of the team changed.
Mhm.
It like flipped." And I think it has everything to do with how he carries himself. And like it or hate it about like what you think of Jalen physically and his skill set that way, the guy has a mental and verbal ability to be able to lead men, and that is an invaluable asset to have as your quarterback.
Absolutely. And I mean, quarterback coach, manager, general manager, owner of a team. We always use the term they bought into what he's selling.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and if you can't, I mean, listen, like I said, Carson Wentz might have the tools, and even the talent, but he didn't have that mental capacity. Listen, look at Brock Purdy. Okay, on paper, he's not a world beater,
Less than spectacular.
but that team bought into what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was winning. He had a winning mentality. He wasn't being a diva or prima donna. but
Well,
they bought into what he was selling and what the team was able to sell. And
I also go back to look at like where Hurts came from in college. He played for 2 premier programs with the quarterback rooms that were as good as they were with Kyler and Tua and all of that. Then you have like those kind of coaches and coordinators and head coaches that you're just surrounded around. And now he's been surrounded all his life. A son of a football coach.
Mhm.
This is a guy that you know has gained his mental toughness in the game, his mental stability in the game because of the people he surrounded himself with. That's why, for me, I was a little out on Carson because, the quarterback rooms that he was in, the coaches he was around, the the people that he had influenced. It wasn't any fault of Carson's. It's just the difference in experience level before Hurts even stepped in the door.
the maturity level, too.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of Carson's development is almost identical to Ben Simmons' development. Nobody ever told those guys no.
Mhm.
They don't know the definition or meaning of the word no. Jalen Hurts he had the rug pulled out under him under the brightest spotlight in the world in the middle of a championship game.
Right. And you're not going to say no to Nick Saban.
No, if you did that to Carson Wentz, he would crumble.
Right.
Mhm.
This kid turned around and went, "All right,
I'll go somewhere
I'll
else.
go somewhere." And you know what? I'm going to lead that team to a conference title and win the conference championship. Like nothing had, like there was nothing, and then I'm going to come back. It's like, the kid. I love watching the NFL Network, and I can't tell you how. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody said, "Well, this is the biggest game that Hurts has played in." I'm like, you people are not paying attention to where this kid came from.
Not at all.
Well, here's my thing is, it is at the same time.
It's the biggest professional game.
Yes, like listen, national championship game to an NFL Super Bowl, 2 different things, but not the biggest spotlight. He sat under the hot lights of a championship. He sat under
he was born under them.
Yeah.
So it's to me, I don't think this kid.
And you guys brought up the fact that he was a coach's son. He had the ability to be in the thick of it his entire life from as a little kid up. He's played on the big schools, and we all said that when hey Howie, when you're drafted, maybe look at the SEC. These NFL ready teams, and that's the thing is I think that's the other thing that kind of plays in the factor for Carson Wentz, because I'm sure he didn't come to the NFL and start being a diva. He was a diva his entire life.
Well, that's what I said. Like with Wentz, nobody ever told him no. From the time
he played in a smaller school, he did well in that smaller school.
Well, and he was the big fish in that pond. And nobody's going to tell the big fish no.
And me and Tom brought that up like years ago. We were like, he went from the big fish in the small pond to the small fish in the ocean. He
went to a regular fish in the ocean.
Right.
And he wasn't a small fish. I mean, the guy had talent. Yeah. There's no denying the fact that kid had, and it's tragic that he couldn't make that electrical connection in his head. That I could rule the world if I develop this level of my brain, but he never did it.
I always tell I work in the medical field, and I always would tell people, if you meet a doctor who tells you he knows everything about being a doctor, run.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a guy who's a competitor who wants to continue to work on their craft, go in the gym, go and work out, get stronger, work with guys who are mentors in areas that you are a weakness in. Not every quarterback's going to be great. There is a weakness. There is an Achilles heel to every quarterback and every player on that team.
Right.
And any team. And if you work on it, you can make it less of an Achilles heel.
Listen to the message that Hurts has said every week this season. We haven't played our best game yet. He's still raising the bar. You don't know where the bar is.
There is no bar.
But he's
just got that old soul, mature mentality.
Different cat, man.
Yeah.
He's a different cat.
We haven't played our best game. Okay. But does he define what that best game looks like? No.
I think in his speech, if they win the Super Bowl, like, we just played our best game. Like, I think you'll hear that. Like, it's like, I feel like he lays Easter eggs for you to find that when he talks about it, he goes, and that was their best game.
Yeah.
And I'm sure during like a Super Bowl speech in the parade, if they win and all that stuff, you'll hear him go, "Well, we're not done yet. I won 2 now. I won 5."
I thoroughly expect them to go. Yeah, we won the game. But we could have done better.
Yeah. We have a question here from Blue City Empire Sports. I have a question. No, I'm not trolling. I just want to know, as a New York Giants fan, why are people so upset that Doug Peterson did not win Coach of the Year?
Can
Um,
I have Joe Scores to jump on the mic because you
hold on.
brought this up on the road ride up,
I-
and
I
Joe.
think he was worthy of acknowledgement for what he did with that team.
I think
Yeah.
listen, and we can get into that a little bit more.
Joe,
Hold on, Joe. We can bring it on. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, how you doing, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
No, we were talking in the car on the way up. Look, Dable did a great job with the Giants, but he had a team that had talent, and all they really needed was a coach to put it all together. Doug Peterson took a team that had a quarterback and nothing else, and took a 3-win team to the division win and the home game and winning a home game. How's that not better than the Giants Dable did?
I'll actually push back on that one a little bit. I think Dable deserves it a little bit more than Doug does, and I'll tell my easiest explanation for this one is Doug did have a quarterback that was a top draft pick. I'll give him that. But if everybody watched what the Jaguars did in the offseason, they spent the most money, more than anybody else, to bring in. They built a team. They bought a team. They didn't draft a team
Yeah,
up.
I get
And Doug would have not been in the playoffs if it wasn't for
The
that
money that's spent.
division.
Yeah.
Just the Titans falling apart, everything.
Yeah, no,
The Giants, here's my thing is, and I'm going to give the Giants credit for this, and I like Brian Dable. I really was, right before Nick Sirianni I was actually hoping he would become the next Eagles coach. But everything worked out in that situation. But he had a guy who this organization kind of let down, Daniel Jones. Never gave him a fighting chance because they just always in bad spots. And they made him look like an NFL quarterback, at least for a short time. And actually, if anything, they did me a favor. They did us all a favor as Eagles fans, because if Daniel Jones just fell flat on his face, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
And they'd be drafting another quarterback.
Right.
So my point is, the Giants had nothing. They had no money. They had no draft pick. They had no really great draft picks to build around. And Brian Dable made them get to the playoffs in the toughest division in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And that's why I actually give it more to Brian Dable than Doug Peterson. What Doug Peterson did, I'm not poo-pooing in any which way. But I think if you're going by who had a tougher road ahead of them, you have to give it to the Giants.
Yeah.
And the fact that Nick Sirianni wasn't even discussed in it, once again, I think people like we did, we saw these like cool pieces coming together, but nobody saw what was going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Someone's gonna have to rationalize to me, not just the Nick Sirianni snubbing, not just the Jalen Hurts snubbing, but the comeback player of the year with the Brandon Graham snubbing and the Son Reddick defensive player of the year snubbing. Because I'm just trying to understand, out of all 4 of those situations, the Eagles players or personnel is deserving of those awards than any of the other people that won it. And yet I get that there's a case to be made about the people that won it, but I just don't understand. Like, look, with Dable, this is what I'll say. He had guys that were veteran, talented players. The difference between him and Jacksonville is Jacksonville, with all those young players, you have to coach up youth. You don't have to coach up veterans. And that's where I think the difference lies. But I think that overall, the Eagles got snubbed on a lot of different fronts, and they're using that as fuel going into this game.
Well, I look at if you're comparing Jacksonville and the Giants, Jacksonville is probably the most rudderless ship in the NFL right now, and Doug gave them a rudder. That's what he does. He settles things down, and he gives the team a direction. They had more, I believe, more pieces to work with than the Giants did.
Mhm.
When you look at the dumpster fire that Dable took over. Because look, the Giants were a dumpster fire last year. They completely terrible team.
That had a lot to do with their head coach.
Okay, I understand that, but now you got to
And
come
their
back.
general manager,
Right, you got to come back into the room and fix that problem
No, I agree.
with the same trash that's burning.
But Doug did the same thing with Urban Meyer.
I get
Yeah,
that.
but they all that team Urban Myers had and Doug had are two different teams. Like
Yes.
I know.
they spent like $250 million.
Yeah, he opened up his wallet.
this
Well, that guy's got
offseason.
more money than God.
Well,
He prints it.
remember,
But let
they
me-
only signed 4 people with all that money.
So I got to take a 30,000 foot view of the Giants, and that team scares the hell out of me.
Maybe not this year.
No, 2 years from now.
Maybe not next year.
No, it's going to be 2 years. It's going to be 2 years because he's got to build the lines. The lines are not where they need to be.
I honestly think you'll see that. I think you'll see that Cowboys start to drop down a little bit.
I think they're going to drop down a lot.
And I think you'll start to see the Giants start to build more stock up.
Yeah,
over time.
I do agree with that.
The Cowboys' problem is Dak takes a $49 million hit on their cap next year, and they're going to lose defensive players because of that.
I mean, it just goes to show you how tough this division was because we went 14-3, and we almost didn't get the first round number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a very slim chance that we could have lost all that,
And understand, like when you hear that 14-3 record, you'd almost just by hindsight alone, you would be like, okay, well, then you're number 1 seed in the conference. Well, we almost weren't. Like that's the surprising thing with the conference.
Just to quell that guy's thought, I don't remember who the quote was about Dable. It's not. There's no disrespect involved in putting Doug Peterson in the conversation because he deserved it, and the guy shouldn't be offended.
And there's no disrespect put it because Kyle Shanahan was in it, and because he lost 2 quarterbacks and was able to keep the number 2 spot. He was able to take it to the NFC Championship game. But here's my thing: is the whole Kyle Shanahan conversation. Excuse me, the whole Kyle Shanahan conversation.
I want to get into this. I want to get into the Niners.
They need to temper the
You mean the Whiners?
Yeah, they need to temper the genius moniker that they give him.
No, I say keep it up.
Well, I'm just saying, like it's a third round, a third string tight end versus one of the premier pass rushers who should have been Defensive Player of the Year. Not me just being an Eagles fan, but me being a fan of football.
Right.
Like that is truth right there. Like that is he should have been. And
the one thing I heard, and someone got to tell me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
But the one thing that I heard.
Your wife just called. She said you're wrong.
He has a coffee mug, Mr. Wrong.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I heard this week that was so true was that Nick Bosa, who won the Defensive Player of the Year, got held in check by a guy who's playing hurt. Like, how do you give that guy all this credit in the world, and he's playing
popularity
hurt?
contest? I mean, it's the MVPs, the MVPs, and even Hall of Fame conversations in different sports, not just the NFL, but in different sports, it's questionable. It's questionable. It's because there's we saw with the Sixers and the NBA. The fact that Harden is not in the All-Star game, and the fact that Embiid was number 2, you can make the conversation why that's so wrong.
Oh, I have done that.
And because 50% of that goes on to the fan or the popularity of fans, and people love Giannis and LeBron. They are the names. And here's my thing: is Embiid. If you're an outsider looking in, you probably hate him. You probably want to trounce Embiid. You want to play down his greatness.
He's the villain.
Well, because he's so great.
Yeah.
Right.
Real quick, guys, before we move on in the conversation here, I want to remember this episode is brought to you by CherryInjuryLaw.com. David R. Cherry is your man, 610-565-0300 for all your workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, and criminal law needs. Dave Cherry's got you covered, and he will get you the justice that you deserve. And guys, big game is 33 hours, a little less than 33 hours now away from this moment, and there's still plenty of sporting events coming up, and there's concert events. It's summer concert events coming up on us. Season ending is coming up on us. There's plenty of theater events, and Cherry'sTickets.com is the place you go. Family owned and operated since 1946. And guess what? There is no hidden fees. You're not going to get bamboozled at the end of your transaction with them. The price you see is the price you will pay, and save yourself an additional 10% off by using EOP10 promo code. You will save money compared to the others, and I will use it just as others. But you will save money because trust me, I've compared the other ones. And here's just a list. Actually, I'm missing one. They added a new one of Philly sports trips coming up between now and the end of May. They have bus trips. They actually have one today that's leaving today. That's going to New York to watch the Sixers take on the Brooklyn Nets. With no, think about when you book this trip. Oh, I'm going to see KD. I'm going to see Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Wrong.
You're gonna see Ben.
You watch Ben take a whooping, and in my world, that's the best.
Wow, did that place abandon shit?
Yeah, right.
Last man standing.
All their spring training
Didn't
trips.
we say that months ago?
All their spring training trips have sold out, but they have great bus trips coming up to Yankee Stadium for the Phillies. Kansas City, you can head out to the draft, and if the Eagles win, wear those midnight green jerseys proud.
Oh my God.
Union trips, they're going to London and Leeds, you name it, they got it. Go to phillysportstrips.com. You never know what you're going to get. And here's the lineup for this week, an amazing lineup. We're getting towards the end of it. One update on the graphic that hasn't been updated yet. Sunday's pregame show will be at 5, not 2. We push it closer to the game. And that will be Dives and Shane Hath. They will be handling that with us, covering your last-minute breakdown of.
And where is the
big
pregame show? Is it? Do we have a location for the pregame?
No, it's going to be StreamYard.
Okay.
But that, you guys. So let's see. Blue City had one other. Let me see here. As a New York Giants fan, I can't believe I'm saying this, that this 49er players need to let this go. They lost fair and square with the Eagles, won fair and square. Yeah, I mean, I give the guy credit because that's hard to say.
That is hard to say.
And where is Kyle Shanahan? How come he is not calling his players out for what they are saying? And what about D. Smith and A.J. Brown shaking my head? Listen, man, I think at one point you kind of just let those guys burn their own bridges. God don't even know if half of them are going to be players on the team next year.
Well,
I mean, when the kicker's coming down on you,
Yeah.
the kicker's breaking down Jalen Hurts.
right. Yeah.
You know you've hit
Kickers on
your rock meet bottom. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, you know, Brendan Ayuk was he was on. He had a really long interview that every minute of it was. Oh, let me throw another match on my own gasoline and burn myself alive. He was saying, yeah, you know, we could have really turned that around if Purdy was given it. And I'm like, dude, the defense took Purdy out of the game. You have to give. They give no credit to the defensive line doing their job and eliminating a threat.
He didn't trip over the turf.
Well,
No, and I mean, you know, that is lost in all of this crap that the 49ers are throwing against the wall. Is that the defensive? They could not. Their offensive line could not do their job and stop the defensive line from eliminating any.
That's
threat.
what I kept asking him. Did Brock Purdy play defense?
no.
No, I mean,
Yeah, their defense.
I can understand. Listen, they couldn't
Weren't they
score.
the
But they had the
number one rush-
defensive player of the year, Al.
They were the
were-
number one rush defense in football this year, correct?
Yeah.
There was 3 rushing
And they
touchdowns.
got bludgeoned.
How many rushing touchdowns do we have?
3.
Oh, okay.
Four.
And,
Four?
and they weren't
Four?
like
Yeah.
Four.
they
Yeah, I'm
weren't
sorry.
1-yard dives. They weren't 1-yard dives.
No.
No, they got bludgeoned.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I laughed off completely, and I forget who said it, but someone from the Niners defense said that the hit. Now I don't have vision to determine this. I've asked people that have seen it, but they said that the hit on Purdy was dirty.
Wasn't.
No
And,
way.
and I've heard it from several
was not
people
dirty.
that it was not dirty.
Let
So I
me
trust
let me
that.
play this out for you. He was going back to throw the ball.
Right.
Hassan Reddick, hands in the air, leaning forward like any defensive player's taught in high school,
Right.
maybe even grade school, might I add. He was leaning in. He got it, and he got the top of his throwing arm, and it got pulled and cocked back
Right.
because he had weight coming down on it.
Right.
So that's what happened. How often do you hear a quarterback or any football player needing Tommy John surgery, injuring their UCL? It rarely ever happens.
Right. Right.
Baseball all the time.
Yeah, that's because that's their velocity,
Right,
the whole thing
right.
is thrown. My point is, he was throwing the ball. It was all about timing. I mean, half a second either
Split
way
second. A
could
split
have made a world of a difference. His arm was cocked back, and he went to go get him, and he got the. He didn't grab him by the arm. His
Yeah,
forearm,
he hit his forearm.
forearm to forearm. Like
Right.
that's what happened.
There was no helmet involved. There was no.
No.
I heard from my buddy who was describing it to me. He's like, it was a free kick. That's all it was.
It's not even a freak hit. Like, it wasn't like something that you could like, ooh, if he
Right.
did it on purpose, that was dirty.
It
It was
wasn't-
a clean shot
It wasn't.
at the quarterback.
Yeah, it wasn't a free hit at all. You know, Hassan Reddick did his job and got to the quarterback. And the evidence of that is, and you heard the announcer say it, that when the ball came out, his hand was open, which
Right.
means he was not in the throwing position anymore.
By the way, David, I still am mad at you because you're going to the Super Bowl and I'm not.
Oh
So,
yeah.
He's the one that tutored Hassan in Temple. I had it.
Oh wow.
We had a class with Hassan. It was a gen ed class, and he tutored Hassan, and Hassan gave him a free ticket to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So I'm like, yo, I was in the class too, and I helped too.
Yeah, maybe not enough, apparently.
Maybe you didn't take his test for him, see?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dwell on the 49ers too much, but it's truth, man. Like this, listen, we've all had bad losses and thought that, I mean, anytime you get walloped by the point differential that they got walloped by, how do you sit there and get fired? You know what? I'll be fair to you. Here's 2 touchdowns back. You still lose.
Right.
You're still a
Yeah,
loser.
yeah.
The fact your quarterback couldn't throw, the fact that you made it that far in a third-string quarterback, you should be proud of the facts.
Right.
You shouldn't be sitting there trying to blame the Eagles for your unfortunate loss.
Right.
Like you guys said, it wasn't a freak accident. He didn't trip coming out of the tunnel and
No.
snap his wrist or something. Like it was a good, clean football hit.
Hassan Reddick got home.
Yeah, and you put a third-string tight end on one of the most premier pass rushers in the league, and you paid dearly for that.
Yeah, I don't.
And
see
I
that.
hope was it Brandon Ayuk who put
Yeah,
all his
Brandon
money
Ayuk.
put all his money on like goes, I bet all my money that the Chiefs win.
Yeah.
Man, I
You know
can't
who
wait
else-
to
You know
I
who
can't wait
else
to get that money.
You know who else I can't wait to see lose?
By the way, does he
Drake put $700,000 down on KC.
Jesus.
good. I love it.
Well, what about the fraud of Rasheed Wallace last night?
I can't say it, man.
What a fraud!
I don't get why Rashid doesn't like Philly. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, back in the
Born and
day,
raised here.
I mean, he was in
'Cause of the
Boston and he wore a
D-hole.
Flyers hat.
Yeah, well, that
He wore a Flyers hat back like during when the Flyers were.
Oh, he just doesn't like the
relevant.
Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, I don't get how he can go into the Wells Fargo Center and wear a Chiefs hat. Chiefs
gear, yeah.
as our fearless leader just said, he's a D-bag.
Well,
I don't want to break it down to its simplest
Yeah.
parts, but yeah, here you go. He's
Well,
a D-bag.
that's it.
I
Right.
literally
Oh, it's like Dominic Brown wearing the Cowboys jersey.
Occam's razor there.
after last night, I was literally like, well, I no longer hate Roman. I'm like, now I have to hate Simon Gratz. I'm like, you produce a D-bag like him. I don't know, man.
Actually,
I'm feeling some kind of personal way.
to go. I feel like I keep going against Joe over here, but not Marks, but scores. I mean, I think it's worse than Dominic Brown Cowboys hat, jersey, or whatever he wore.
Oh, because he's from Dallas.
He's from Dallas,
right. I get that.
And the Eagles weren't about to play them in the Super Bowl.
Right.
No.
In 2 days, like that's a D-bag
Yeah,
move. Like you don't just.
And he planned that out.
Is he a Chiefs fan?
Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
I think he said he was,
No.
yeah, from when he was a kid.
Oh,
It's what he
stop
said. Well, he did say that.
Stop.
Yeah, I want to go see all his. I want to see all the tags on that Chiefs gear he was wearing.
Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace is what? Maybe in his 40s now. Something like that. Okay. So if you trace back to when he was a kid, what Kansas City team was good?
Right. That's my point.
You know,
I don't
It
think
was
he
the
around for
AFL
Joe
back
Montana
then.
days.
No, it's not. It wasn't the AFL. He ain't that
He's
old.
48.
He's 48.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was the
so-
AFL when I was a kid,
Okay.
not when he was a kid. You know.
I mixed them up.
Yeah, but my point is, that's a troll move.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Troll
If you had respect for Philly, but you were a Chiefs fan, what would you do? Just not wear it.
yeah.
You went to a Sixers game anyway.
Right.
You weren't at an Eagles game, an Eagles Chiefs game,
He
He
was
did that on
making a
purpose
point.
because he knew he was going to get on camera,
Right.
and he was going to get everybody pissed off, and have guys like us sit
Clickbait.
here and talk about it. He knew
Clickbait.
exactly what he was
Clickbait.
doing.
It's,
100%.
you know.
All right, let's go in a couple more questions here because we kind of went on that one for a little bit. All right, this is a good question, Joe. I like this one. At this point, win or lose, Does Jalen Hurts have anything left to prove this season? James Scores, I'm going to start with you.
No, I don't think he does.
So you are content, like at this point, it's not like Super Bowl win or bust for you. You're like at this point we're shocked that he got this far, and I'm proud of him, and I'm happy with what we got.
Yeah, I think the one thing I take out of it too, the season has been really been fun to watch for him. I think the one person that he has to prove is probably Chris Sims more than anything. But other than that,
prove anything.
Well, it's just like what was that Mike Lombardi with
with Doug
with
Peterson.
Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, these guys, just like I said about Rashid, they're trolls. They know exactly what to do.
Yeah, Mike Lombardi,
Mike
not
Lombardi-
Mike Loro.
Yeah, he kept
Chris
Mike,
Sims
it's
isn't
Mike
smart enough to be a
Lorio.
troll.
Whatever.
No, it's Mike Lorio. We call him Mike Lorio because you guys call him Mike Lorio.
I call him Mike Lombardi, but
But no, like it's the same thing. Mike, he knew what he was doing. He knew that team was poised. He probably figured, look, what do I got to lose? I'm getting all this publicity.
right,
If the Eagles lose, I was right.
right.
If the Eagles win, I still get all this publicity.
That's the Howard Eskin approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Throw gasoline on everybody.
Yeah, like a guy who hates social media, but at the same time,
Yeah.
he's all over. He always talks
like
about
a-
his Twitter.
He's a social media.
It's not
Yeah.
social nor media.
Right.
Yeah.
Get off it.
thanks, Howard.
Delete your account right now.
Yeah.
And I
Delete
mean-
your account right now.
But that's the thing is with Chris Sims, and it's interesting because I heard he was down on Radio Row and he kind of walked back some of his words.
Oh,
He
yeah.
still doesn't think Jalen's a top 10
Well,
quarterback.
he was on Radio Row with Micah Parsons. And
Yeah.
and he sat down. And he said, "We're probably the two most hated people in Philadelphia."
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And actually, I don't.
No,
hate,
I think people don't hate Michael Parsons.
I don't hate
anywhere.
Micah Parsons at all. I
I think he wants to be in Philly.
well, you know,
Well, he definitely does now.
I wonder because the way things played out with that trade, if he thought he was going to be a Philly,
well, you know,
Eagle.
Yeah.
maybe he should have been, but I look at Micah Parsons, and I mean, I follow him on Twitter, so I comment back to him whenever he posts them. I look at Micah Parsons like LT. You know, I mean, there's players in the league that rise above the logo on their helmet. Okay, Micah Parsons is that kind of guy.
I
You can't look at his helmet because of your inbred hate of the Cowboys.
well,
You have to. He transcends it. His talent level transcends that hatred, and I have to completely respect the guy. Not like him because I got to
Right.
face him twice a year, but you got to respect what that guy has.
I mean-
he is gifted.
one of the reasons why I came up with this question is because Jeffrey Lillard came out with saying that kind of gave him the vote of confidence in saying, like, regardless of what happens, Jalen has done enough this season. Like, he's done enough to impress me this season. And like
Who said that?
Jeffrey Lillard.
Oh Lord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So-
have a
I sure
comment
hope
about-
so.
have a
I
comment
sure
about
hope
Jalen.
so.
And so, and he also added that he's worth whatever contract he's going to get.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
leaps
everybody
and bounds.
forgets like this guy can sign a 6-year contract.
Yeah.
And only be like 30, 31.
Yeah,
And if he stays healthy and
Right.
can do Tom Brady-esque,
Well,
and even Aaron Rodgers type careers where they go to 38, he can get himself another big contract.
yeah.
Like you don't often see that, in
Yeah,
the NFL.
so
you know, my thought. I mean, you guys know how I felt at the end of last season about Jalen Hurts, and at the end of last season, the only thing that I saw in Jalen Hurts was his ability to throw the long ball. Everything else he had.
A little bit about reading defenses, but I figure that's something that can be learned.
That's just stuff you learn on the go.
Yeah.
It happens.
experience.
Right. But by week 3, that was gone. I had no. By week 3 with Jalen Hurts with me, I was like, okay, this.
Oh yeah, I'd say
This
3 to
gets-
5 week. The week 3 to 5, I was sold on Jalen Hurts at that point.
Yeah, and I mean,
Because at first
right
I'm like,
now
all right,
it's
maybe
summer.
they're playing high. He's high on something, not high, just
And
high
cool
on the
thing,
moment.
The cool thing about it is, if they sign him this year, right, and they do it, they renegotiate the contract he has because he still has a year left.
Yeah,
Yes.
If they do it this year, they don't have to take the big cap hit next year.
yeah.
They
2
can
years
sign
away.
him to a really big deal, and next
It
year
starts the following year.
Right.
They could give him an increase of what he's getting paid now.
Oh, he'll
with-
get millions next year.
No, but I'm just saying without
Right.
without the 40 million.
Well,
Right.
Yeah.
he's
Right,
already
it'll be the
said
signing bonus. Part of it.
he's already said he's already gone. Jalen, that is, has already gone on record as saying that like he doesn't want to be that guy that takes away money from having a good team around them.
Right.
And
That's
so
just-
Like his agent
I
probably
hug
like,
him some days. I just wanna hug him.
Hug the shit.
like,
Brothers
But
don't
can
shake
you
hands.
imagine-
Brothers got a
now,
hug.
now hang on. Can you imagine his agent as he's saying those words?
Oh,
No.
Well, here's the problem.
No.
His
His
agent
his agent's saying
She's new to the business, so she's got to.
no. His agent is saying you do what you got to do. I'm going to get paid for 12, 14 years.
Yeah.
And
not even
she's
that,
trying to build
you
her
guys
business.
Forget the agents. When you say things like that and you become more than just a top tier quarterback,
Yeah.
you become a public figure,
Yeah.
and you're in commercial. You know, Jalen Hurts could be in State Farm commercials with Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
and Aaron Rodgers at any moment. That's where they make their money anyway.
Yeah,
I
it's
did.
endorsements.
I did an article
You know
about
what's
Tom
really-
Brady's net worth. Tom Brady never breached the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in any year he ever played. But he made money with his off-field endorsements, his
The
investments,
TB12 thing. And
everything. And here's the thing. He's now going to walk into a 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox. And and he'll become the highest paid commentator in history. This is a guy that in perspective was like, I'm not going to hurt my team on the field, but damn it, I'm going to get paid on the back end.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and now he's going to get
Fox
his
is morons for
right. But like he doesn't have to worry about it.
Actually, I've heard him do his.
I'm not saying he can't do it, but for that kind of guaranteed money, like the guy's never done it before.
Yeah, what's that say to the rest of your team?
right.
What's it
And
say to
the
rest
fact
of
that
the
And Greg
he's-
Olson's a little bit annoyed at this. I
Well,
think.
the
you know what?
fact that
I don't really like Greg Olson.
Mike
Oh,
Laro
either way.
says, "Good morning, boys. My ears were ringing. We were just saying
Oh,
your name."
Mr. Lorio.
Yes.
How you
Mr.
doing?
Lombardi. So the interesting thing is that with Tom, he's actually getting alimony. So
Right.
like on top
Because
of
Giselle's
all
worth
the
more than
money,
him.
Yeah,
because he
Can
made
you
more,
imagine that?
right?
Tom Brady getting alimony.
Yes.
Embarrassed though.
Because the way that
Oh no, dude. No, I don't know. Maybe
No, I
I'm
wouldn't.
a different creature because even if I was Tom Brady, I'm like, I had sex with her and I'm getting checks now.
and you're
Like,
and
that's what I'd be saying. Like, I'm getting paid
and
for
you're
this shit.
I
and
didn't
you're
think of it on
dating
those
a
terms.
new foreign supermodel.
Well, did anybody see Tom's like new underwear picture? Because I guess he has a
Yes.
brand line,
Yeah.
and it's like a picture of him sitting on a bed in underwear, like a GQ cover
Right,
magazine
right.
thing. I'm like, Tom, it's cool in there, bro.
Yeah.
But all right, all right.
Remember the I want to be like Mike?
Yeah,
I
right.
want to be like.
Yeah, exactly. So what
Even
matchup,
Mike wants to be like
Yeah.
Tom.
Frank? I'll start with you on this one. What matchup do you think that the Eagles can exploit on the Chiefs?
I think they're going to exploit their defensive line.
Mm.
I think without a doubt, to me, the strongest part of the Eagles offense, the Eagles team, is their offense.
Absolutely.
And I've watched some of a lot of Brian Baldinger's analysis of the offensive line, and you always know when Brian Baldinger is excited because you never hear him get excited, okay, ever.
No.
And he's breaking down Jordan Mailata, and one of the hits he made on one of the San Francisco 49ers guys, and he didn't let him off the ground. He goes, "This shouldn't happen in the NFL."
Yeah.
He said, "That's a problem." And I mean, then he goes to Jason Kelsey, and Jason Kelsey literally one arm threw a guy 2 yards. And he went, "This is another problem." And then I heard Cuz talk. He was talking to Spags,
Mhm.
and he asked Spags, what's the biggest concern? And he went, "That offensive line's a bitch."
Yeah.
He said, "That's a bitch, and it's a problem."
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I always
And
said
I think
my
that's
claim to
the
fame with
part.
my Baldy story was when I'm interviewing Baldinger. It was about a year ago or
Yeah.
so. We're talking about offensive lines and all that stuff. He goes, "Al, you're another guy who talks about offensive lines with the biggest grin on their face,
Yeah.
like me, until I met you. I didn't know there was somebody else who enjoyed it more."
Well, I mean, my favorite player on the team is Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, I mean, I got my Kelsey jersey on right now.
My jersey's on back order. My kids couldn't get it for me for Christmas because they were out.
I know. I've been trying to get my lot. I'm gonna have that. I want to get like in my house in the basement. Like I'm gonna get all the jerseys framed
Uh-huh.
and line them up Kelsey in the middle, Samalu and all them on either side of them.
I have a policy about buying jerseys because I mean I bought jerseys in the past, and then the players go. I only buy immortals.
Well, that's my thing. Is that I
gotta-
want to get all the linemen in the Eagles to sign these jerseys and hang them up in the order that they play. Like
So for me to get a Mailata jersey,
that means a lot.
it means a lot.
Yeah.
Because I mean I have Cunningham, I have Reggie White, I have Dawkins.
You know? That was the other jersey I was going to wear. I wasn't sure which one I was going to take.
See, I because to me it's like these guys are forever Eagles.
Yeah, people always talk of these guys in high regards. Anytime the word Eagles comes up, you can't help, at least in the back of your head, to connect the dots.
Right.
Al, can I plug my? Considering we're talking about jerseys,
sure.
Everybody who wants to get any kind of Eagles gear or any kind of possible Super Bowl championship gear, check out my Facebook page. I'm going to be putting up links from Phanatics, Fandom Gear on Facebook group. It's FANDOM Gear, 2 words. Look me up and click on a link and let's go Birds. But thanks for the plug.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, like I agree with you with the jerseys, but like here's my thing is, and this like you, I've never bought a quarterback jersey for the Eagles. I have at my office, I have a signed Nick Foles jersey because of course it's Nick Foles.
Right.
I will probably buy a Jalen Hurts jersey.
Yeah.
And rock it. Like sometimes I'll buy jerseys to hang and put up on my wall.
Right.
But sometimes if I'm wearing you, if I'm sporting your name,
right,
it means something.
Yeah.
It means something.
Like
that.
To you, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same exact way.
You know, and like I said, I've always been a lineman guy, so I have plenty of linemen. But like, so having a Kelsey jersey isn't crazy. But I'm going to say something that if I went back in time, if I got in a DeLorean and punched it to 88 miles per hour and talked to Al about 10 years ago, and I'd say, "Hey, Al, guess what? What, Al? What do you got for me?" He goes, "You know what? Dawkins is 1B, Jason Kelsey's 1A in my Eagles fandom." I'd punch me in the face. And I know that the other Al can punch me because I'd be too slow now to handle the other Al. But my point is, like, that's where it's gotten for me with him. Like, I love Dawkins. And if you said, Al, you're going to be able to have dinner and hang out one night with either Brian Dawkins or Jason Kelsey, which one of my kids do I like more? Answer that question.
I got a great.
I still feel like both those players could be great coordinators.
Yeah, I have a great Dawkins story. My daughter was at NC State her first semester of college, and the Eagles were playing the Giants on Monday Night Football, and she's down in the common room, and she's wearing her Brian Dawkins jersey, and this Giant fan comes down, and he sits like 2 seats away from her. And he starts talking trash about Brian Dawkins loud enough so she could hear, but not talking to her, but talking at her. And my daughter is fast and furious texting me what's going on, right? And she's like, she just went in all caps, "Dad, is Brian Dawkins a dirty player?" And I just said, "No." I said, "Who's saying this?" And she goes, "This Giant fan next to me is saying that Brian Dawkins, he's such a dirty player. He gets away with murder." I went, "Just ask him one question, Mary. Would you like to see him in blue?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Watch his response."
Yeah.
You know what I got back from my daughter?
Yeah. That's the key factor there.
Yes.
You hate him
because
he's beating you up twice a year.
But if he was in blue, it'd be a
You'd
different
be going nuts.
Right.
I mean, there's guys like that. Like, we kind of talked about Micah Parsons in that kind of sense. Like, a guy that we're gonna hate because he's a Dallas guy. But if you put him in Eagles green, he'd be the greatest player, on the team. Like, you'd have no problem saying that. Like, it's
no. I mean, I can't stand the guy on the field, but man, but I'd love to see him in Eagles green.
Yeah.
Could you imagine him in a Son Reddick?
Nightmare.
I'm gonna need a 5-minute timeout after that.
That would be
somebody get the duct tape.
That would be a nightmare.
You're going to need a duct tape for the quarterback.
Yeah, right.
Man.
And to answer the same question, I don't think Jalen has anything to prove at this point.
I don't think he does.
But I will be let down sorely with a loss. I think at this point I have him so built in my head that they're going to win. I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy win, which we'll get into predictions in another half hour.
You know what? I wouldn't be. I mean, of course, I want them to win. You know, I'll be disappointed if they lose, but I will not be crushed if they lose because I know and respect the team on the other side of the field. They're not just going to roll over for
Oh
us.
no, and listen, you think you're going to sack the quarterback 6 or 7 times like you've been?
You're not going to sack that guy
No.
6 or 7 times.
Bold prediction here, not bold prediction, but prediction. If you hold the Kansas City Chiefs,
I know what it's
to less than 20 points,
Oh yeah,
I feel that's a victory for us.
you're not going to hold that team to less than 20 points. I just don't
But
think.
I'm saying
yeah,
I think they could, because here's my thing is, it's all about minimizing the damage.
Right.
And what I mean by that is where touchdowns come, I'll take the 3 points.
Yeah.
You know, the drives are going to happen. You gotta force them all. You know, especially depending on how healthy that foot is, and a high ankle sprain, you're looking about 6 to 8 weeks. So there's no way. You know, his improvement has been really amazing.
Yes.
Considering the fact.
Well, he's a miracle man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a freak.
But my point is, he's not going to be. This is going to be the first time. All I hear lately is Eagles have not played anybody that good yet. They haven't had that game yet. That game to prove game.
They said that when they went into San Francisco. They haven't faced a defense like this.
But hold on one second, Joe. I know we're going to go with this, but my point is, I don't think the Chiefs have played.
They haven't
a defense as good as ours,
or an offensive line.
Right. Yeah, Joe. I know you're chomping at the bit over here.
Let me be clear about this, because I've heard this for months now, and it's irritated the hell out of me. We played Dallas, who made the playoffs twice. So that's 2. We played the Giants twice, who made the playoffs twice. That's 4. We played the Vikings, who made the playoffs. That's 5. We had played the Titans, that at the time were the division leader. That's 6.
Jacksonville,
who won the division. That's 7. I've already covered 7, like almost a third of the games in the season. How many do I need to prove in order?
The simple fact that matters is because the Eagles did not play the Chiefs, the Bengals, or the Bills. They feel like they haven't played a good team.
How about the Chiefs played a crappy division, which we thought was going to be good?
Yeah.
But a crappy division with the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers.
They almost lost to the Raiders. They did lose
They lost to the
Colts. They did lose to the Colts. I think we
lost to Washington.
I think we beat the Colts.
The thing is, like, good teams are going to have down times, but it's as long as those times don't keep you down. That's the important part. Even like, the Colts game, you guys barely survived. Okay, that happened, but they survived. and in the end of the day, the W's don't count more depending on the points differential.
I think the league and national media gathered their assessment on the Eagles based on how they performed in last year's playoff. And the difference in that team and this team is night and day. It's just night and day. And I don't think they connected the dots. I don't think that they put it together and said, okay, this team has got something. So they always couch it with, well, Jalen was a 2nd-round pick. He didn't look good last year. The fact of the matter is, he ended the season. He had 1 loss as a starting quarterback, and he did. He was one of the finalists for MVP. So that crap about not getting the respect disappeared when they opened up the betting for the Super Bowl, and the Eagles are the favorite. They're not an underdog, and from what Peter King said, the only reason they're not a bigger favorite is because of how much preseason money was bet on Kansas City. That if Kansas City wins this game, Vegas takes a bath, and they have to keep the betting line low because they need Philadelphia money. If they went into this game even money bet, the Eagles would probably be a 4 or 5 point favorite, because I think they're that much better than Kansas City. I truly do. I don't think Kansas City has what it needs to beat this team with 50 guys on the team. They do have 2 people who are better. The quarterback and the coach. I think I have to respect Andy Reid.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I think that's a wash. I think that they're both equal players. You know, one has more speed, the other has more grit, and I think they're pretty even as tight ends go.
we have a message here from Derpy Entertainment. Well, Mahomes has experience in the game. Hurts doesn't, but Eagles have more experience on defense than the Chiefs. So the way I look at it, this game could go 50-50, which is why it's going, which it's going to be. I think what you're saying, what's going to be a great Super Bowl. Listen, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to call, 47 to 50,
No,
17.
there's no blowout here.
I mean, unless maybe Patrick Mahomes is more hurt and they just he can't score like he normally can.
Right.
That would be the only way I see a blowout happening.
Well, in my opinion, if they keep Kansas City to less than 27 points, the Eagles win this game comfortably.
I mean, listen, on defense, the Chiefs, what do they have? Chris Jones.
That's it.
I mean, the offensive line, every other. I think it was Baldy who said it. He said the other guys are just guys.
Yeah.
They're just guys on the team. Like they're not world beaters. I'm not saying
they're solid players.
But doesn't mean they can't step up and play.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
I mean, think about it. They got rid of two of the guys in the secondary that were world beaters in the Honey Badger and Ward, the corner Ward. So I mean, you got to understand they've lost a lot on that defense.
Well, that's because of Patrick Mahomes.
No, I know.
They had to lose.
I know. But that still makes a big difference in how this team reacts. Because in my mind, once this game starts, it's all about read and react. If this defense falters quickly and folds quickly, this is going to be a game that's going to get out of hand because Patrick Mahomes is going to have to put his cape on and play superhero. And I don't know if he's got the ability to do it.
Oh, he's got the ability to do it.
He is a
Is he
superhero.
physically able to do it is a different story.
Right.
And is his O line going to be able to hold up?
Yes.
Against that rotating defensive front. I think
Not that left tackle.
If I'm the Chiefs, I come out and I have like a scripted, like a Doug Peterson, 10 scripted plays.
Right.
And what do you think Doug learned that from?
Yeah. Well, they all do scripted plays.
Yeah,
Everybody.
but my point is, like, I would do a very much hurry up offense and try to score fast and try to keep the defense on the field and off kill.
Well,
and zap their energy.
That's the only way to neutralize the Eagles' defensive line. Their rotation.
You can't play the game like that. Don't get me wrong, but like,
no, their defensive rotations or their defense is dependent upon the line rotation. And if you go hurry up and you freeze that movement on the Eagles, they are susceptible.
I go back to the idea that okay, Pat Mahomes on a hurry up offense. How effective will he be if he's putting all that pressure onto that leg? Number one. Number two, the idea that it's been proven that with hurry up offense, Patrick has not always been the best productive quarterback. He's more of a guy that when he's got the game in hand and he's organized and a manager of the game, then he thrives more.
Yeah, no, and listen, I don't see a blowout in any which way. I'll get to my prediction in a little bit, but I think it's going to. I think the first part, if you win the toss, you take the ball. I don't care at this point. Try to score first.
Yes.
And if
I do not give Patrick Mahomes the ball.
If you can let the Chiefs play from behind a little bit, that will play in our favor and keep it a close game through the half.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing is, if you look at our defense, more of our sack production came in the second half of the game than the first half.
Well, they wear the offensive lines down.
Yeah.
They just beat you up. That's what they do. So if you got to come from behind against the Eagles after facing that rotation of, they literally can throw 10 defensive linemen at you. It's unbelievable what they've done with their defensive line.
Yep.
I go back to
and you're also going to get the guys like Ndamukong Suh.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're going to this is their last game probably. He never played a lick of football again in the NFL.
I hope they bring him back.
I don't think he comes back.
No, I don't think he does either. It's like, you know what? Call me in November.
Yeah, he'll be the kind of like Chris Long, like
call me in November. I'll stay in shape. I'll do my stretches. Call me in November.
I go back to a couple months ago when we first signed him, and when Jordan Davis went down, and you were saying, and you said, okay, Joe, process.
Yeah.
And I said, wait a minute. If we have them for now, Jordan Davis is going to come back, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
and the wheels started to turn in my
Yeah.
head,
Yep.
and you're like, now process what this defense looks like, and I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
I love the 30,000-foot view. I love doing that.
So the next question is, and I think this is a pretty straightforward question. I think everybody's gonna have the same answer. Who's a comparable coach to Nick, and with how quickly he got to the Super Bowl? I mean, Joe, I'll let you answer your own question. Who's the most comparable coach that you can think of?
Well, I know a lot of people are going to say Belichick, but I'm not going Belichick.
I think something a little closer to home.
Andy?
No. Who? The last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I know there's so many other times before.
Neil?
No,
No,
the
Peterson.
one. Doug Peterson.
Peterson.
Second year, he won the Super Bowl.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't think.
But look at the longevity that Doug had. I mean, that's not something you want to capitulate to Nick Sirianni. I go more to like a Mike Holmgren.
Okay.
And the longevity that because he created a culture quickly in Green Bay, and that culture they have been trying to figure out how to regain that culture for a better part of 2 decades.
His coaches are still in the league. Andy Reid is one. of them.
Yeah, Andy Reid's one of them. Marty Mornhinweg was another one of them. So like, Doug Peterson was a person that was a quarterback under him. Like the idea that Holmgren had so much of a culture similar to like a Bill Walsh, similar to like a Bill Parcells. These guys are like coaches that take respect, but I didn't give a lot of respect to Nick in the beginning, and this guy's made it to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Listen, people wanted him fired within 3 to 5 games
After his press conference.
Yeah.
After he said
After his first press
that
conference.
was ridiculous.
after he said we're gonna grow the flower, people were packing his bags and telling him to go to the airport.
I see. I look at here's the really the tell on head coaches is how the players read, react, and respond away from the team when they're being interviewed, when they're being taught. You can tell teams that are selfishly oriented. You can tell when players are like, yeah, I'm playing football. I mean, Dallas is a perfect example. They don't always play on the same page, and I don't think they respect Mike McCarthy. But this team,
I think that comes from the owner too.
Absolutely, but
I think that's
this
why
team,
no coach gets respected there.
This team is different. They're Nick Sirianni has something going with that team that you don't get any vibe like that away from the team. You don't get any vibe of like I'm just in this for myself. You never hear any. C.J. Gardner-Johnson came out with a statement the other day. He says, "I want to come back here because he knows his contract's up and he wants to come back." Who says that as a free agent? Who says that before the free agency period begins? Nobody.
Like,
their agents say, "Shut up, we'll do our job when the season's over."
Would you say that Nick Sirianni, with the type of culture that he's created in this locker room in the last 2 years, maybe we didn't see it at first, because
it's evident now,
right? But like that culture that is evident now, that culture isn't going away anytime soon.
Well, no, because he's got the right guy running the ship, and the perfect guy to rudder that ship is Hurts. Everything that kid says is right,
and any OC is going to want to work with him.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff. All right, guys. So we're gonna get closer into the predictions. James, I'm going to start with you on this question. Give me your Super Bowl MVP and why.
I think it's obvious. It's Jalen Hurts.
Whoa! Did you just Freudian slip there?
I just
hey, listen, if that's what he thinks, I'm not going to. I'm just messing with him. But
no, but Jalen Hurts has been the best quarterback all year. I think he's probably the odds-on favorite. That should have been the MVP. I think the reason why I say he's going to be the MVP tomorrow because nothing phases him. He's like he has a Joe Cool mentality. Like Like, he comes into the game, he's like laser focused, and he's going to be the Super Bowl MVP by the end.
Joe Cool's out fishing.
Did I just see something on ESPN here that said Eric Bieniemy has job possibilities as an OC with the Ravens and or the Commanders.
Why would you just do a lateral move though?
His contract must be up.
Yeah.
They said he only interviewed with the Colts.
So you're telling me he's not going to stay with him? That like, they're not going to bring
Wouldn't
him
you
back?
just want to work with Patrick Mahomes until you get a?
I would never leave.
Or do you,
Unless, well, I mean, take the OC job and that's a lateral move. Why?
Yeah.
Unless the money's that much better.
no, so the way it works is the contract has to be up. You can't take a lateral move
Oh,
unless there's like that's kind of how what's his name Deuce Staley was able to move from the Eagles still under contract to because of the whole assistant to the head coach or whatever
right.
the
You
term
can
is.
up progressive.
Yeah, and that's why he was able to go with he's the OC.
He's the OC.
Yeah, so he gets to go.
Good for him, man.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah, I want to see him succeed.
Back with Frank Wright too.
Yep.
Yeah. He said he was talking about his MVP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I said no. Hurts is obviously the MVP for Super Bowl.
I have a different one.
Me too. Keep going.
I've been paying attention to everything everybody's saying all week,
Hard not to.
and nobody is mentioning Hassan Reddick's name.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think this guy,
Dude, 3,400.
this guy is a bubbling
He's
cauldron.
plus 3,400.
I-
I might. I don't want to because I feel like I'm going to jinx him, and I don't bet on Philly teams. But I would put money on it. Like, listen, most likely James is right.
Yeah,
because that's the
well,
way
they
it
always
works.
give it the Golden Boy always
Yeah.
gets it.
But if he sacks, if he causes forced fumble sacks,
If he does something like 3 sacks, forced and recovered fumble, that's the difference in the game.
I think if you rush him enough,
Yeah.
maybe a sack or two,
The last-
maybe a forced fumble, you give it there. The whole point is if you keep Patrick Mahomes,
If he neutralizes Patrick Mahomes, he's the MVP.
I
That
think
should
the
be.
last time a defensive lineman won Super Bowl MVP was James Harris with Pittsburgh Steelers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. And I mean it's an oddball thing to say, but I'm everything that's happened to Hassan Reddick's career outside of his control, not being considered for defensive player.
no, Von Miller, he won in.
Oh
yeah,
he
Von
got it
Miller.
the year
Right,
the
right.
Broncos won. Yeah.
Everything out. I mean, they're not even. They talked about Brandon Graham today. I mean, Brandon Graham's had a great season for a guy who coming back from an Achilles tendon.
Comeback player of the year, definitely.
But
yeah,
I never hear him mentioned. I never hear Hassan
Listen,
mentioned, and the guy was second in the league in sacks.
let him sit there and
He
eat
is
that.
Pissed. He is pissed, and I think
Here's
he
the other
could-
thing is Hassan Reddick is doing something that even Jeff Bezos couldn't buy.
Yeah,
And my point is like you're not just playing a sport. You're not playing for the NFL. You don't have a nice NFL contract. You get to play for your home team, and you get to lead them to a Super Bowl and be a key cog in that.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
go-
that's a
and
dream
you
sequence.
can't buy that.
That's a dream sequence.
and
It's
go
truly a
back
dream sequence.
and go back to the city that gave up on you in Arizona. They
Oh,
gave
yeah.
up on him,
Yeah,
and now he's back in Arizona. He raises a trophy there. He's basically rubbing it in the Cardinals' face. Not like they're not dealing with their own issues, but like rubbing it in the Cardinals' face. Oh, you gave up on me? Okay, cool.
So, not to burst your bubble. So I'm looking here. I pulled up the list, by the way. So yeah, Von Miller was a linebacker. They have him listed as
I
a
said
linebacker.
defensive lineman.
All right, fine. So then Malcolm Smith was a linebacker. So then you would have to go all the way back here. Yeah, Ray Lewis still has him as a linebacker.
he was a
so
linebacker.
You might have been right. Hold on, let me keep going back.
James Harrison was a defensive end.
What year was that?
That was one.
79.
Yeah, no, James Harrison. Not
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking.
You're thinking of the different Harrison.
Yeah, I'm thinking James Harrison.
Michael Harris.
Right. No. When was that? What's his name?
90s. It was again.
Cower was still the
Yeah,
Cower was still
Yeah.
the head coach of the team.
it was early on in Ben's. I think it's the Cardinals too.
Yeah,
Did you guys know that Peyton, the Manning brothers were back to back
Were
Super
they?
Bowl MVPs? Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying
Wait
to
till
see
their nephew hits the league.
linebacker. Yeah, they actually have a kick returner as the Super Bowl MVP.
Who was
Is
that?
that Dante Hall?
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard.
Howard.
Yeah,
Howard.
Desmond Howard.
Cornerback. I'm not seeing a defensive lineman on here. Defensive end, Richard Dent.
Oh, Dent. Wow,
Wow.
that's
Super Bowl 20.
So that's
going back to
going all the
86.
way back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause I'm not seeing Harrison.
Harrison?
I'm not seeing Harrison on here.
Okay.
Maybe he did.
Because he made that return for 90 some.
And then
yard
before
return.
that, it was Dallas all the way back in Super Bowl 7, where they had co guys and Harvey Martin and Randy White as defensive linemen.
That defensive line was a
So
nightmare.
keep in mind, if Hassan does it,
Yeah.
he's making history.
I mean, that's just my dark horse. I mean, I don't think. I mean,
No, that's my dark horse too. I've been huge on his.
wow, we're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
And I said, if I was not an Eagles fan,
Right.
I had no stake in this game, I'd be betting him as my MVP. I'd be putting $10 down on him just so I can win. Was it $340 or whatever it would be?
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, it's
Yeah.
$5 bet. Throw $5 away on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, not right. I mean, 20. You never know. But I'm not going to do it. I can't. I think because if he becomes up like non-existing, I'll lose my mind. I'll be beating myself up for a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if they win and he becomes non-existing,
Right.
I'd be beating myself up for a month.
So is that who you have, Al, as your MVP?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
My dark horse MVP. I
Yeah.
said most likely it's going to be what
But-
James said.
It's got to be Hurts or.
Yeah.
or
I
you know.
I mean, unless Hurts has the most pedestrian type, like we said, it has to play
Yeah.
out where he has a decent game, but not a world beater game,
right.
and it doesn't come down to him winning the
He's got to
game.
throw for a couple TDs.
Because he
and
can
run
have a
for one.
bad game, but if he has to come down and do like a last minute drive to win
And
the
when
game,
he'll get the MVP.
he'll get the MVP.
He'll get the MVP.
So
Hassan Reddick, like Greg said, like if he has like a what do you call it, like
Monster game.
a monster game, then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
He has to
you
neutralize.
could even put
He has to neutralize Patrick Mahomes at the most crucial moments in the game.
Yeah.
For him to get considered for MVP, he has to take away that moment from Mahomes.
Can you give an entire offensive line MVP? Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be awesome.
That
would be awesome.
I want to get him on the stage and then sing.
Yeah.
But no, if I had to pick, I mean, I'm in agreement with everybody about like Hurts is the go-to. But if I had to pick my dark horse, I'm going to go with Miles Sanders. I think that if Miles goes,
I don't know. Kenny Gainwell's been getting more carries than
Yeah.
him in the postseason.
well, keep in mind, Kenny Gainwell has been getting more carries, but he's been getting more carries in the second half when we have a lead. Look at like all the touchdowns. It's basically coming from like a Miles Sanders. I think Miles has more touchdowns than Gainwell this postseason. And you got to understand if you're looking at stats, if Miles gets 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, you're not going to give him MVP, especially if it's like a closer game. That may be more at an indicative jumping off point to people that are going to make that decision. Now, look, I like Jalen. I love Jalen. And I've been the biggest fan since he's
Are you
got.
breaking up with Jalen? Like this sounds like a breakup.
Yeah.
No,
Listen, it's not me. It's
No,
not you. It's
no.
me.
But Frank has said that I sometimes wear my fandom on my sleeve, and I want to come off.
Just a little bit.
I want to come off objective in this way.
So you're gonna wait to 30 hours before the Super Bowl
To be
to
objective.
be objective. Joe Mark, this is why I love you. Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah.
We keep going.
But if you look at like what Jalen's had the last 2 games with the Niners and the Giants, he hasn't had the best game,
Yeah.
but he hasn't lost the game.
Yeah.
That's the difference. He hasn't done anything.
I am completely
cost-
confident that he will not cost us the game.
Right.
No.
Will he light the world on fire? Who knows? My feeling is if he does, if he starts out hot, if that shoulder is loose, this is going to be a gunfight. And Patrick Mahomes ain't going to come out on the right side of it. I am a full on.
Don't want to shoot out with this team.
I don't either, but
But I don't fear it either.
I don't
at the same
fear it.
time.
But it plays into their hands. That's the way
No,
they
listen,
want it.
that plays it in their hands as well. That's why I kind of said hold them to the field goal.
Yeah.
You're
Because Andy will take 3.
Yeah.
Andy will take 3.
I'm waiting
but
for
at
that.
At my same time is I don't there's not much I fear about this game outside of some bad injury or
Turnovers.
turnovers or
Yeah.
something like that. Like if they
No, I think they play a clean game. It's not even they win the game. If they don't turn the ball over, they win the game.
All right, so real quick, I'm gonna do the. I want to do a little different than we normally do. I'm gonna do a little love to our sponsors. Then we're getting our predictions because we're getting close to the end of the show here.
Okay.
And remember, guys, if you find yourself in a predicament such as a work injury, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, criminal law, David R. Cherry is your man. 610-565-0300. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Tell Dave that EOP sent you because he is going to fight for your rights. He is going to get you what you need, when you need it, just the way you need it, because he's Dave Cherry and he is the man. And don't forget, guys, when you need the tickets to the big game, concerts, theater events, you name it, they got it. Sherry'sTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Go to Sherry'sTickets.com. You're not going to get bent over a barrel at the end of your checkout. You're not going to sit there going, "Oh, I got a great deal. I got a great deal." Bam, $1,000 service fee. Guess what? That won't happen. Okay. You see the price on the screen when you're looking at all the other prices is what you will pay at the end. An additional 10% off using EOP10 promo code. I myself have used it plenty of times already. You can't go wrong with Sherry'sTickets.com. Philly Sports Trips. Here's just a list of all the different things they have coming up. And hopefully, with a big win on tomorrow night, you can wear your midnight green, head to Kansas City for the draft,
Yeah.
and really tick off. I don't know. Like I think of the was it the David Akers speech with against Dallas after they won the Super Bowl?
Dallas.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. So
that happened.
But that's because of what Pearson said here.
When we were.
Does that give another reason for the stars align for the Eagles?
Yeah.
We win our first Super Bowl, we go to Dallas for the draft, and they win the second Super Bowl.
Go to Kansas City for the draft.
Yeah.
Pattison,
with the 10th pick overall.
Pattison at Phanatics was actually on air when that was happening. We broke and cut that video live.
Yeah.
And like they had it on the NFL Network on a delay, and we had our producer grab that video and send it over because we had gotten blown up on our phones that David Akers just dropped a bomb on Dallas, and we're like, what? And we're like, oh, you were there, James? Like we broke in.
James lives a life that certain things start to blur together.
I don't think
he might be with one of his many women.
I remember the speech. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I was relevant at the time.
Yeah.
And guys, here's our great lineup here at EOP Sports. For the rest of the week, today, of course, Pattison Ave. You'll have 2 post games tonight. Clear the ice with the Flyers taking on the Predators, and then later tonight, Sixers versus Nuggets, and then tomorrow, of course, PM and the AM with Pat Bernard and Mike Lario. And then all across all the time will be at 11 a.m. because, of course, they're not going to compete with the Super Bowl.
Right.
Crazy, not stupid. And then it's not 2 o'clock. It will be 5 o'clock. I will update the graphic for a Super Bowl pregame with Dives and Shane Haft. It will be one for the ages. I'm going to go around the room. And, James, I love starting with you because, I feel like you're my good luck charm.
Yep.
James, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Give me your final score prediction.
Okay. Well, I know it's not going to be a blowout, but it's going to be close towards the end of the third quarter. But then the fourth quarter, they're just going to shut the lights out. So I got the Eagles winning 38-20, and we're parading down Broad Street once again.
38-20. James, 38-20. You think there's going to be no palpitations for you on this one?
I don't think so.
You think this is going to be? I want to say a smooth game, not maybe the easiest game, but a smooth game.
Well,
you think they're going to kind of pull away at the end?
Yeah.
Type deal. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically it's not going to be a sweat. I mean, at first, if it's
the only sweat he wants to see is Sweat's jersey in the backfield.
There you go. Exactly right.
Dude, I'm sweating it now. Does that count for anything?
Yeah, you know me too.
Frank?
All right. I got 3 predictions.
Is that a prediction then?
No.
You're like a weatherman. It's either going to rain.
No, I teased at the beginning of the show because he said, you said I was Nostradamus.
Our boy Mike Lario is saying 41-17.
Are you pulling a
unavailable.
Skip Bayless and hedging your bets?
No.
Okay.
No. Sixers in the finals.
Wow.
He's doing it again.
Phillies.
Listen,
don't do it to spite.
Mike.
Do it with realness.
Frank, what we have to do is we got to find the episodes where you said this.
Oh,
it's early on. I want to clip these together,
can do
especially with a win.
I can do it.
And then if the Sixers make it, we got to find. We're going to pull this one up.
Yeah.
And we're going to clip it all together later in the year.
Sixers are in the finals.
Wow.
Phillies win 94 games in the division.
Okay.
They're going back to the series.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't
Don't play with our emotions.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make it a gimmick.
It's not a gimmick. I thought about this.
Okay.
I thought about it because of the schedule that the baseball has to play this year. The Phillies are
they
going to
have
win.
less- they have
The Phillies
less-
are going to win 94 games, and they're
Okay.
going to win the division because Dombrowski loaded the bullpen.
and because they're playing your division less too. Don't forget.
And the Eagles are going to make us sweat because that other team is that good.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to come from behind in the fourth quarter to beat us, and they just won't have enough time left. The Eagles win 31-27.
You're going. You're going up. You're going to need a cardiac or
No. This is Philadelphia, dude. You can't have a no sweat thing.
Yeah, I know. We already had no sweat playoffs. You can't have no sweat.
Right.
With Jonathan Gannon, you never know. So.
Joe scores it. Hold on, let me turn your mic back on.
I got like 34-24. I think it's going to be closer. The Eagles score a late touchdown to make it a 10-point game.
Joey Marks, the hammer.
You remember how we just said a couple minutes ago that I have objectivity 30 hours before the Super Bowl?
Yeah, right.
Not
Yeah.
happening.
Did it go back?
Throw it out the door.
Did you lose it
Throw
already?
it out the door.
It's
Objectivity.
Yeah.
That ship sank.
He gives you about objectivity about 12 minutes a year.
That
That's all you
ship
guys
sank.
get.
Right.
This, I said it all playoffs. Every team that has come to face us this playoffs has taken, the only thing they've taken is their bags and gone home. I can't say that because both teams are going to take their bags and go home.
Sure.
But Kansas City isn't taking a trophy home. In fact, they're taking an ass kicking. 42-20 Eagles.
14 points.
42-20.
42-20. That's
Oh, you said 4. I thought you said
it's
34.
18 points.
Oh, I thought you said,
22
No, it's
points.
22 points.
yeah, I thought you said 34.
A three touchdown crushing. Yikes.
Jeez. I don't know if I can handle that. Like, part of me's like, I don't know what to do with that. like I don't know how to process that.
Al's going to call me at 35, and he's going to go, why?
Like I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'm gonna be like walking around, like pacing and eating pretzels and shit. Like I don't know what to do with myself with that prediction. Because I'm looking at all this stuff that people submitted on our prediction link I put out the other day. There's still plenty of you out there. There's only 10. Not one person has picked Kansas City yet, by the way.
No, it's Philadelphia. Nobody's going to pick KC.
But even the most objective guys, you
Yeah.
would hope that you would wonder. If this
I
wasn't,
mean, the Eagles are the better team.
they are
Up and down, they are the better team.
I've said that 1,000 times.
You know,
Mine, I said the other night, is a little closer, and I'm kind of into closer to what Joe Scores has said. I'm going 28-20.
Mhm.
And what that is because they're going to need a last-ditch effort to kind of come from behind. I like what Frank
Yeah,
said.
that's
and
what-
and they're just.
that's why I think they'll get the 27.
It's not going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be enough time.
That's why I think they'll get the 27 and no higher.
If he's got to throw off that foot and he's got to drive the field with our secondary and our defense putting pressure on him, I just think he'll come up short.
Listen, if they go into the fourth quarter, the Eagles better be up by 2 scores going into the fourth quarter. Because if they're not, the fourth quarter is going to be a sweat, boys. The fourth quarter is going to be a real sweat.
Listen, it's going to be a sweat until that clock hits 0 and the
Yeah.
Eagles are up. You know, I mean, it's going to be a sweat.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a few more minutes left here. I think we'll get into this other stuff later because we've kind of talked about this stuff because Joe wanted to talk about it. It's a sustainable, which I think is a whole long conversation because we do have like 18 guys coming off of contracts this year. Most of it's on defense. Yes.
Right.
I believe. Well, yeah. So you have a contract with Miles Sanders, which I think he's gone.
Yeah. Sadly, Sanders.
Sam Malo, I think you sign him. I think you get him on the cheap.
I think those are the only
I don't know
two
if you
guys
get him on the
offense,
cheap,
though.
but you'll get him.
No, I think you get him fairly. They're probably gonna go. Listen, you stay because here's my thing: is I don't know if you call this a hot take or a weird prediction. If they win, I can honestly see if Jason Kelsey has enough in his tank, he stays one more year. Do you move Cam to a guard
Yeah,
and let Sam Alu walk and just worry about getting another guard down the line?
yeah,
For the
because you can
following
get
year?
a guard.
Yeah.
You can get a guard. I'd do that. I would get Cam in there just to get him a seasoning like they did with
Landon.
yeah.
And my thing is like
I'm not
I
unhappy
think
with
you
that
tell
because the
Sam
guy's a
Alu,
road grader.
I think you say Sam Alu, here you go. Here's the contract. Take it or leave it. Like I don't. He has no leg to stand.
I don't
on.
think they do take it or leave it to any of these guys. I think they go, look, this is what it is.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Take it or leave it. Like
yeah, but I
this
don't
is
think
what
they
we're
do it
gonna-
with that attitude.
Well, no, listen, you win the Super Bowl, you might be able to, especially in
Yeah.
his position. That is, I'm not saying it's easy to change, but
They're going to do that with Sanders, though. It's going to be, I'm sorry, Miles, but this is it.
I mean, listen, it's
You're not-
unfortunately when
we
you
can't
have a
let
low
you-
line like this, you can plug and play.
Well,
I think Steve.
They're
Gears
going
that
to
are-
say to him, we can't let you,
it-
break the bank like
it's guys
what you
like
call it in
Bradbury.
Dallas.
It's guys like
Or like
Bradbury
Yeah,
Saquon did in the Giants.
I said I would not be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I would not be surprised if they move on from Slay if they could. It's his contract is what makes it really difficult. But I wouldn't put it past him. Like move on from Slay, that opens up a lot more money, and then
And
you
you
could sign
keep Bradbury.
and
You move Maddox up,
Chauncey Gardner Johnson. You have options.
You
for
have
that.
to keep Johnson. John,
but do you move Maddox to the 2 and Gardner to the slot? If you
no,
do that,
I think they'll draft the corner.
well, I do too. I think they're going
Oh,
to draft
yeah.
secondary anyhow.
I think the corner is the position they go.
I think safety.
I was going to say right tackle if they have it available at the later pick, but I think that one of those. Here's my thing: is if what they want is not at number 10, they will package back because they only have what
Yeah.
six picks.
Yeah, if they can't get the corner or the edge rusher that they want, they're going to trade. They're going to trade back.
Well, they're looking to get another bulldog, from what I've heard. They're looking to get this other guy.
Oh, I think they're going to continue to go this well until it proves them wrong. Why wouldn't you?
It's the
Alabama,
SEC. Yeah, no, you don't go wrong there.
yeah, you go Alabama, Georgia,
These guys are groomed for the NFL.
LSU.
And keep in mind, with already having 2 Georgia Bulldogs on that defense, and with Kaiser White's contract going up, that means Nakobe Dean's going to play next year.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Do you
So
guys worry about that? Now I'm going to take
No.
this to James
No.
because
Go ahead,
he
James.
is the bulldog
Yep.
in the room. The fact is, it just because they signed Kazir and they were just running with him that we didn't see any play time with Nakobe Dean, or do you think he just wasn't ready?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Kazir White probably was the placement holder until Nakobe Dean was ready, and I think next year I think Kazir White goes to free agency, and I think Nakobe Dean will be the linebacker to replace him next year.
Whenever, and I looked for this all the time because I was so happy when they drafted him. Whenever he got into the game, and it wasn't often, but every time he
Yep.
got in the game,
You heard his name.
he was on the play.
He was,
Yep.
on,
He was on the
tackle.
play.
Yeah.
I just think because they spent the money they did on Kazir White, and
he played well.
yeah,
He did.
you can't say the guy was just given the spot because they paid him. No, Kazir White had a good season,
He did.
and he did it in a contract year, so he's going to get paid by somebody. And the Eagles have
No,
a nice
okay.
little
local kid,
piece
by
to
the way.
put in there.
He's
And-
another local kid, by the way.
And you got to keep in mind, like Cox is going to be off, but you're going to have someone like a Hargrave or someone like
I think you.
a Milton that's going to step right in.
All right, here's my thing: is without worrying about. We'll make this quick because we have about 1 minute left here. 3 guys you think should stay. Money's not an issue at this point because we can get into the minutia of it all. 3 guys that you would pick to stay and why. Joe, I'll start with you.
Miles, CJ, and Bradbury.
Same here.
CJ, Bradbury, Kelsey.
Well, Kelsey, I'm not going to put him into this conversation just
All right,
because
well,
he might retire.
Yeah.
It's not a contract thing; it's a retirement thing.
Yeah,
Right.
because Howie's going to say, "What do you want?"
I can't give the money to Sanders. I just can't.
No, I can't give the money to a running back. It's nothing against Miles. It really isn't. I really like Miles Sanders, but I just don't see them giving the money that he's probably going to be able to get.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to demand like a big contract?
No,
He's going to demand more than what he's going to want.
No, I think the Eagles are going to tell him, you go out and get the best offer you can, come back and talk to us.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. And he's going to go out and he's not going to get the money he wants.
No, well, I don't
Because
think
nobody pays
I
nobody
think-
pays
I
running
think the
backs
run-
anymore.
The market's barren for running backs.
But
They're
if
still
you
not going to get the money because they won't put that money against the cap for a running back, especially a fourth-year guy.
but if you have you have a team who has the cap space for it, who
Yeah.
thinks that will make a big difference on their team, he could probably get paid.
Probably good.
Probably a couple bucks more. Now it's all about for him. Is it money or staying with the team that he won a Super Bowl with? Because at that point, if he's like, I won my Super Bowl here, I want to get paid now.
Right.
Like if they win the Super Bowl, that can change the dynamic of their thinking. If you lose,
I don't think it will with this bunch.
Look,
well, I think certain guys, not
Can-
everybody. But I'm saying,
Kansas City has proven their prototype that they don't need to have a 5-10 year guy at running back. They can just plop and play anybody back there because look at the success they've had with the running backs they have.
Well, look, the Cowboys proved that.
Yeah.
Look what they did with Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke's going to cost them money no matter what next
Yeah.
year. If they cut him, it's $5 million. If they keep him, it's $9 million. If they trade him, it's $16 million.
I mean, San Francisco
Really?
did the same
so you
thing.
why don't we just cut him?
Well, that's the cheapest way for them. Is to just let him go.
Go.
Right.
I mean, San Francisco did the same thing. They had 3 viable running backs in the top 20 of the NFL, and they basically were like, "Yeah, we're not going to pay you. Go." Like they just let him go. Matt Breida, they let him walk, and he was a top tier guy. Like running backs come at a dime a dozen now, and the market is barren when it comes down to those guys getting paid. So my feeling is if Miles does what Frank and the Eagles do what Frank's suggesting, he's not going to come back with a high number.
Yeah.
He's just not.
Well, like I said, it all depends on what he wants. So if he wants to get paid, he'll go. Most likely have to go somewhere else to do. So
Right.
But it's also
if he
about
wants
the
to get a
market.
decent price and work with the team, because remember, it's all about the years and how many. But that's the other thing is like giving a guy him more than 2, maybe 3 years. That's a tough sell.
I wouldn't.
Oh,
No, you can't.
3 years is even a tough sell for me.
I would give 2 years with a team option on the third.
I mean, and let's look at it. I mean, he's had some good years.
But pay him up front. Give him the money up front because you can this
Well,
year.
they might not have to. They might have. I mean, it depends. Because if you want to keep the other guys like CJ or something, you're going to pay those guys. They're going to get paid.
Yeah.
CJ and Bradbury are going to get paid. Bradbury made a comment about he'd be willing to go back to the Giants.
Who, Bradbury?
Yeah. I think somebody asked him a question.
They're not going to blow their budget up for that.
No.
Because they
But then again, you never know. After what happened, like they might think if we had Bradbury on our team, there might have been a different game.
No.
Not that it wouldn't.
They have bigger problems in the interior lines than they do.
Oh, I
on
think
the
so.
outside.
Well, it depends on what they have. But so my 3 would be. Hold on, I got to check one thing. How old is Hargrave? 27, 28?
27.
27.
Okay, so he's 27. I'm going to say Hargrave, CJ, and Bradbury.
I would agree with
No,
that.
he's 30.
Oh, he's 30?
He's 30.
He might not be back.
Well, you also have Milton. You got to keep in mind, you got to give the kid a chance. And
No, I mean, I liked what I've seen from Milton.
The good thing about this is the Eagles have a plethora of defensive linemen, and they're not going to miss if they lose 3 of them. I mean, they're not. It's not going to hurt them that bad. And if you can find guys like the Ndamukong Suh in the middle of the season to fill the role, they're going to be fine on the defensive line. It doesn't matter who wants to go and who wants to stay. And I think this will be Fletcher Cox's last game.
yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, unless it works for the
He'll go play someplace else, but he's done.
If he wants to play, if he wants to continue to play, if to play here, you have to play for the vet minimum.
Yep.
Like that would be the only thing I could see for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like
They need to spend the money.
But
to
I
play
wouldn't be
other
surprised
places.
he wants to be done. I mean, I know he's not old, but he definitely doesn't have what he has.
Well, no, he can get a check from somebody.
Well,
yeah,
you know where he could get paid?
Dallas.
No, Carolina.
yeah.
Yeah, you think Frank then would take a
Yeah,
flyer on him?
I think they would. I think because he would like solidify their line. He'd be a stopgap guy to solidify their line. And he would only be for a season.
And here's
he could pick up a check there.
I go Kansas City.
Kansas City would too. Yeah,
Chris Jones.
yeah. Stabilize the middle a little bit.
And get him reunited.
unless
with
he starts playing like
Spags.
what like Sue did and all that, and just wait halfway through the season. and
Yeah, he should do that because he's not a guy that can play.
All year.
He can't play 60 snaps.
go. Yeah.
He's down to a 30 snap guy now. He just can't play. I mean, you see it when he starts to wear down. He just can't get off.
That's why we
But-
have the rotation.
But now that the rotation we have now, he looks fresh. He looks like September
right.
fresh when he plays.
Well, look at him in 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're 5 years past that. And then that means next year he'll be 6 years at 70. I mean,
Yeah.
so, yeah, you definitely have to find a way.
No, he's going to get a 1 or 2 year contract. He's going to get paid and walk out.
And look, there's got to be a contemplation that with some of these
God bless him.
players like Cox, Graham, Kelsey, Lane, if they win, this would be their second championship. And for most of these guys, that may be okay to just ride out on that horse into the sunset, because honestly, not many players in this league get 2
Well, Graham said
championships.
this was his last ride. He said
Yeah.
it earlier, but I don't know.
Well, guys, this is the last ride for us until after the Super Bowl.
Go Birds.
So next week, I'm sure the TK, Damon will be back at one point.
Yeah.
I want to thank Joe Scorza, because there's 2 Joes. Joe Scorza for joining us today
Glad to be here.
and being the man of the hour as always. Frank Finnegan, James Scorza, Joey Marks, and Go Birds.
Go Birds.